Hi everyone, this time I changed myself in recreating the first Nintendo Game&Watch in 3 days. Let's get started and see what happened. First I started to draw the character. Using Affinity Photo is just my app of preference, but any editor is just fine. I use the geometric figures to create the body, head, arms, hands, legs and feet. And of course his famous big nose. Then I exported each part of the body as an image, as they need to be able to move independently in the game engine, so we need a sprite for each object that needs to be moved. As the body itself is always static, I export it as a whole image. Then I drew the ball and the crash word with a star near it, to indicate when a player loses and the ball falls down. And there are also two pieces of the broken ball to create. The next step is to create the console itself. I started from a grey rectangle and another one outside for the border scarlet and red. I also added two red buttons that are needed to make the character move and gave them that 3D look by adding a texture and shadows. Then I added the screen and a rectangle with a relief as on the real console. And a few of others just to create those layers around the screen and the black borders and the red color part above. Adding the printed text. And the grey buttons that are designed to launch the A and B games and to show the time. Then I changed the colors a bit and added that 3D look, shadows and light to make the console look more real. Now we need to export the parts of the console that can change during the game as images. And then the static part of the Game&Watch as the background. The next step is to import everything in the Unity game engine. I had to reposition the buttons and the prints again. To create the illusion of a button pushed inside the console and thus being flat, I created two images of buttons, one when it's not pressed and one when it is. Then I placed the character on the screen in one of the positions it can occupy. I created game objects for all the moving parts of the game and added colliders to the images of the buttons. A collider adjusted zone you define in the game that reacts to other colliders or interactions with the mouse or your fingers on the touchscreen. When you click a button, you click the collider, not the image itself. When a ball with the collider attached touches a hand with the collider within it, it triggers an event that, as I defined, has to change the ball moving direction and to change the score on the screen. And then I wrote down all the possible character positions in the form of coordinates and rotation. Now we need to create the first piece of code, and I started from the red button's push events. When I click a button, a debug message is written to the console. So this way I know the buttons work. After that I wrote the functions that place the character in one of three predefined positions, using the coordinates I wrote down in the notes. So now when I click a red button, one of the functions is called making the character move left or right, or placing him to the center position, or left or right on base of the current position saved as a variable. Then I added 3 balls to the scene, but only 2 of them are visible for the game A. First I instantiated a rotation movement of all the balls just to see how it works. Then we need the ground object that understands if a ball fell down. So I place it just under the hands, so if a player didn't catch it, the ball goes further and meets the ground collider, where we trigger a game over event and make the crash image visible. The next thing I have to do is to calculate how fast the balls move in the real game. The more points you get in the game, the faster the balls move. Using a site that allows you to calculate how often you click the mouse, I clicked it every time the sound was heard. Then I wrote the rules in the code, so each time an increment in speed is needed, it's adjusted. Yeah, it's not perfect, and I'd be better to use an app or something like that hears the sound and counts a click to make it more precise. But I even don't know if something like this exists and fits the scenario well. This method is good enough to create a simple game prototype. Don't mind about the sound that seems doubled, it really is. I will fix it later in the video, changing a few parameters. Then I adjusted the delay parameter and added functions that change the delay for the sound with every increase in speed as well. Now the sound works. The next thing I had to do was to define the actions for the game A and game B. For the game B, the score increment for each ball is 10 points instead of 1, so I had to define it in a variable and assign the right value on the button click. So this is the final result of the development. There are improvements to make, but I'm happy with the result. What do you think about it? Write it down below in the comments, subscribe, and see you in the next video.